how good Eminem may be, the fact that NIP have struggled so much through this event does not give you a ton of confidence. The expectations are so low, they're in the basement, which, Nick, is not the first floor of Kafe, it is under that. We get underway with the ban phase here. Both attackers now removed from action. Eminem starting on defense, NIP on attack.
Yeah, so Eminem banning out the Twitch. That seems to be a pretty stable ban against Latin teams. And now NIP, they love banning out the Valkyrie. I'm curious if we see it once again. No, it will be the Mirror. So Valkyrie will be on the board unless, of course, Eminem responds back. So far, Flores first attacker to go, second attacker to go, and Mirror the first defender. Eminem final ban on the defensive side, and it will be the Wamai, which means information is on the board. We don't see Kafe with Valkyrie open very often at all, but this time around we will, and the Thatcher.
That is correct. No Heart Breacher removed from action either. So Twitch has, for many teams, been a targeted ban towards a player who loves the F2 as a weapon. I know Dark Zero tweeted about it quite cheekily the other day, saying, well, now it's F2 Baza instead of Pan Baza because he's going to be on the FAMAS. I'd like to remind everybody that if you have not played Rainbow Six on the LAN client, then you are not aware of how little hit reg issues there are. There is no latency, the guns fire fast, they hit their targets, you can't jiggle peek or lean quickly the same way, there's no ghosting, none of that stuff. Yes, Nick, it's not like you're trying to go on a date and you get ghosted. It doesn't happen here. So the FAMAS will just chew right through their opposition. Additionally, that Twitch drone has had a couple changes. It can jump now. The taser has an infinite length. You do not need to be right up against a gadget for that taser to work. It can shoot from miles away, targeting black eye cams. Valkyrie cameras, those black eye cams by Valkyrie, Goyo shields, mirror windows, etc. Very first defense is going to be upstairs, and unlike yesterday, Nick, before we got into the match, I went to the nearest blackboard and I wrote down on it several times, Simpsons style, I will not get the bomb site wrong, over and over and over, just like Bart Simpson would do while in detention.
Yeah, we had some banger games in the A stream yesterday, but sometimes the games are too good, sometimes you miss on certain things, and it happens to everybody, Parker, you, me, and everybody else here at the 6 Invitationals 2022. First round, Eminem going up above on that third floor bomb site off Cocktail Defense. They brought out this early aggression cigar hole, whether we using the castle barricades on the piano walls, but NIP making quick work, clearing them out as quickly as possible because they know the more time they have to deal with the setup, the better off they are. The analyst mentioned Eminem, Solotov had an amazing game yesterday. 1.48 rating, 7-2 on the opening kill entry, having a huge game for his team. But Eminem, much like NIP, are full of incredible players, and it's just a matter of who will step up today, because it might not be the same people as the ones tomorrow or yesterday. It can be each and every single one of them at any given moment.
Well, with all the Heart Breachers open and a Thatcher to boot, any of the denial that's put on these walls will be taken care of quite deftly. A Bandit, a Mute, a Kaid, none of them should be much of an issue. And Eminem reading into that, because Thatcher is available and because Heart Breach will not have much of a difficulty getting any of these walls open, there's no denial being brought from Eminem outside of the Aruni. Kamikaze had been down on the top of red stairs. This is the first bit of action that we see. He'll crawl to safety as the toxic gas lingers above his head. Retrievable by Ninjas in Pyjamas, and that should save them from losing one early. It's in fact Nello to die first as Julio guns him down and now retrieves his teammate. An air jab goes for safety, and Solotov down below can creep up. But he'll hear the telltale signs, the pinging of the air jab, and knows that he won't have as safe of a way up those stairs.
Yeah, this basically means that Cigar Shop has to be given up, and now all eyes are on Eustace because he has to try and see if he can get something out of this. But no, he falls back, and while that happens, Pino actually finds Solotov as well. That's the player down below roaming around. And that means that now Eminem, they don't have a whole lot of map control. And at NIP, they're just going to play it slow, drone it out, and set up the round. They know they got the advantage. They don't want to throw that away right now.
Solotov and Tyrant are the two that will carry most of the weight in terms of killing for Eminem if everything goes according to plan. Losing Solotov early, not great. 45 seconds left in the very first round, and an advantage for Ninjas in Pyjamas, sitting at a 5v3. Their execute will come mostly from Piano side, but there's still one of their players on Repel for Nubal, and they can head on in. Neo gets dropped as Nip's guns come alive. A big double play from Tyrant, but he's all that's left for Eminem. A third kill to his name. More marks. He knows they're there, but he's having a little bit of difficulty with the hit reg. I feel like I said this just before we started, and I might have cast or cursed him. Ninjas in Pyjamas need anything they can get, and taking the very first round against MNM isn't much, but it's a good start.
It certainly is a good start, getting that mental advantage early on. It's the first day of the game, so these are some refreshed players that just came out of their bed, or at the very least, hopefully came out recently, because you want to be awake, but at the same time, you want to have a nice amount of sleep the night before. Mind you that this is Eminem's map pick. Yet we're seeing Eminem on defense. So whoever picks the map, they do not get to pick the starting side, which means NIP knowingly and choosingly wanted to get the attacking side first. So normally when you see this, you'd think, NIP not expected to do that well, it's a defender side at Kafe, etc. But if you're NIP and you want to go attacking side first, there's a reason for that. One is that you kind of get to dictate the attacking ban phase because the defenders, they ban first. But secondly, I think NIP has a plan coming into this, and they say, we want to get as many boards in the round because they're expecting themselves to perhaps do better on the attacking side than that of the defense. And this very first round showed quite a dominance from them. Normally when we think of NIP, we think very aggressive, very fast-paced gameplay, and yes, they got the opening pick, and yes, they got solo top on that second one as well, but then they slowed down, and they really ensured to play it tight together. They had 3 guys on the cigar side, and they had 2 guys on that cocktail window rappel, basically coming from all angles at once, and really using their numbers advantage to their benefit.
No attempt for MNM on that same bomb site. They'll go down below into reading, but it will not surprise you to see a setup up top similar to what happened before. The denial for MNM is a mute. That's it. No Kaid will be on the board yet again. And we'd like to remind you of the operator bans being what they are, and not just what operators are banned, but which ones aren't. That is obviously going to make a big difference. With Valkyrie available, something you said was a bit of an oddity and a rare sight on Kafe. Yellow will again bring out the Valkyrie for his team. I believe it was Neo playing on the Valkyrie in the previous round upstairs inside a cocktail. 30 seconds left, and because you want to clear out the top floor, Ninjas in Pyjamas have assembled over the hatches and have an opportunity to drop down and start with a clear on the top floor.
Yeah, NIP once again playing it at their own pace. They're not really being quick at all, to be honest. A minute has gone through the round and they haven't progressed really anywhere inside the building just yet. Yeah, hatches have been opened up and we see Pino on this white hall rappel, but NIP has just entered Piano, and they only need to work their way through this map. There's 2 ways to go about it for NIP. They can either swoop the entire top floor, take control, and make verticality, or they can do like a limited-ish style where they're only gonna take Cigar and go down below. But looking at how aggressive they're getting on these windows, I think they want to take the entire map from MNM.
NIP is at their best when they're controlling the pacing and flow of a round, and while they're going to have some difficulties, they march in, asserting dominance on the top of White Stairs, avenging the death of Pino. He was the first casualty in this matchup. Muzi will soon follow, as Solotov again is down for the count. Uses in the grave. So both teams fighting back, half of the round burned off, and there are 4 players dead, 2 apiece. Just inching around. Psycho looking for one more. Got some covering fire. They don't know that Neo is there, but Neo completely botches the gunfight. May it be nerves? Might it just be a lack of proper aim? Maybe it's because it's so early in the morning. But that was what should have been a relatively easy kill for Neo, at least on one. He softens up Psycho and Kamikaze in the process. Final minute to play, and NIP have an advantage in a 3v2.
Thankfully for Eminem and Neo, Kamikaze and Psycho both very low on health. Now there is no C4 from Nelo because he is playing the impacts, but both of those has been used as well. Hopefully they will have a Valkyrie camera somewhere, but I actually think that NIP has found most, if not all of them, which leave just the guns from Tyrant and the guns of Nelo to do all the work right now. And NIP will have to set up. They do not have the Sledge on the board, they do not have the Sophia, they have no verticality. It'll come down to gunplay.
Nelo's waiting for the drop on White Stairs. A sound cue will be his best friend. Grenades and flashbangs going off. Kamikaze has the diffuser in hand. He's planting. Tyrant from the other side of the map, over by pillars. And there's somebody by the reading door that he'll have to tussle against. No real urgency from Eminem. Tyrant losing the gunfight against Julio, and Psycho does cleanup work. Eminem have no shot in the post plant, and Ninjas in Pyjamas go out to a 2-0 lead.
Eminem almost standing still there. I mean, they obviously didn't, though NIP was planting, but even then, if you evacuate the bomb site entirely, they will just drop the laundry hatch or drop pillars, walk into side and start planting, and then you have no answer. Either you gotta run up the staircases, try and retake the top floor, and then use the verticality against them, but that's where the joke's on you. You killed the Sledge, you killed the Sophia. There is no verticality on onto bomb site, so arguably MNM could have stayed on the site itself and held NIP from walking in. Instead, they played quite far away, didn't hear the plant go down, and yeah, the post-plant situation, we all know, once the diffuser goes down, it is heavily favored for the attackers. It is oh so difficult to retake in Rainbow Six Siege, so your best bet, honestly, is to just try and make sure that the attackers do not get to plant at all. Now MNM, 3 for 3 here. They've gone on 3 different bomb sites. They started top, then they went second floor reading. Now they're on the first floor of Bakery. They're trying to find the win somewhere, and so far, it hasn't really gone their way. We don't see the Valkyrie this time on Nello. It's actually gonna go to use this, so we're kind of throwing this operator around, but this time, she does bring the C4. Neo himself bringing out the yokai, so tons of information play from Eminem, but they have to use it. They gotta get active. There's no way you can just sit in the basement and just think that NIP don't know how to execute, because by the looks of it, this is an execute-based NIP. It's not as gun-heavy as they have been in the past, and honestly, it's working quite well for them.
It's interesting hot potato of Valkyrie. Neo to Nello, now to Usus. They're just trading Valkyrie around like she's a Pokemon card on the playground. Everybody's going to get a chance to use it. In this case, you're going to, like you said, have access to that C4 and the easy low recoil of the MPX. I don't know if Tyrant or anybody from MNM will go for an early fight, but Tyrant's been spotted by the window, and he just narrowly misses on an opportunity to die as there were bullets over top of his head. Still playing there, this time Solotov engaging. MNM were credited with the first kill in the previous round. These teams are even when it comes to opening duels. Despite that, NIP were able to take that deficit, immediately trade it off, and control that third floor before snowballing to the rest of the bomb site. It's going to be completely different now as their focus will be set on Kitchen on that main floor.
Certainly, and honestly, from MNM right now, pretty good early round. They've killed 5 drones beside of NIP. Only half the drones left, which means NIP limited on information gain, but I don't think they care too much. They're just gonna go right in. Julio, opening kill onto Solotov. No follow-up from MNM. Now 5 versus 4.
A very aggressive defense here from MNM, and it won't slow down just because they've lost Solotov now 3 rounds in a row early. That doesn't mean they need to take their foot off the gas, because Musi is the next to fall. And again, these teams back at an even number. Just before Julio has something to say about that, Tyrant off-site, playing by VIP. He's as good as gone. Nello blinded by Whiskey, and a grenade goes in. The coordination from NIP is picture perfect so far. Nick, that leaves just Neo and Usus. A 2v4 for MNM. Trailing. A very attacker-sided Kafe unfolding in front of our very eyes, and NIP look all but certain to stretch out to a 3-0 lead. There's just over a minute to go. Plenty can happen. And if NIP gets sloppy, this is something that MNM can capitalize on. But sloppiness has not been the name for NIP so far today. Through 2 rounds, there's still opportunities that can present themselves for MNM.
Yeah, and once again, NIP, when they get the 4 versus 2 situation, they play it super slow and super tight. They've drawn out the entire bomb set. They know it's clear. It's been evacuated once again. They can start planting. The only thing that can stop them are those yokai drones, unless, of course, Neo finds the head of Kamikaze as diffuser on the ground and uses trace it back as well. Now make that a 2 versus 2. Playing tight and slow for NIP, not working this time around because MNM, they're on the move.
Pino by the bomb chassis. The Banshee is being baited out at the moment. Neo falters to Julio's 3rd kill, leaving Usus here to try and capitalize off of these final 2 players. Diffuser being planted, he knows exactly where it is. You need to thread the needle, he does that. No real damage done. Pino taking about 25 HP away, and he's prepped and ready for Usus. It's also been one of NIP's most played maps. They've played it in both of their series so far, but they have nothing to show for it. 2-4-7 losses to both Sandbox and Empire suggest that MNM were coming in quite confidently. A, this is a good map for you. B, this is quite a poor map for your opponent. Yet, NIP have thrown out the script, and they are bucking the trend at the moment. There's desperation from MNM that will come out and become even more apparent if NIP's lead continues to grow.
Certainly.
On this 4th round, back up to Cocktail, we'll see MNM go. They have not stuck to a single bomb site for more than 1 round in a row, and well, we'll see if they can make a course correction. They've brought a couple differences on this bomb site. There's one operator in particular that really stands out.
Yeah, that's the Jaeger. I mean, Jaeger's not very common. I'm kidding. It's the Clash. Clash is a menace, if you will.
You got me, by the way. You fooled me. I was like, wait a moment.
Wait a minute, they didn't bring Jaeger the previous rounds? Nah, it's the Clash. Clash is one of those operators that we don't actually see almost at all on this top floor defense on Kafe. And honestly, I'm very excited to see how they want to use it. I imagine with the Clash you want to play more passive because it's going to be very difficult to hold Cigar and Piano. I have seen some teams, the French ones in particular in Europe, where instead of playing a shield and pixel, they play the Clash, basically a movable shield but uses getting active early on, jumping out, doesn't find anybody, but keeping NIP on their toes. And up on the top floor, we are actually seeing the Clash being used in that 90 bathroom position, so NIP, they'll have to answer to that at some point in the round, basically acting as a movable shield. One nade will not take care of this Clash, and there is no Sophia on the board of NIP, no Capital on the side of NIP. They have grenades, they have flashbangs, and maybe an air jet from Julio, but besides that, that's all they got. And by the way, Julio actually have used every single air jet for the runouts, so Clash even more safe than before.
There's a couple operators that work really well at dislodging a Clash. Nomad being one of them, Capital, as well as Fire Arrows, do a ton of damage when a Clash, slow as she is unable to get out of the way. Zofia and Kali can both knock the shield away as well. One with Zofia's concussions and with a single shot from the Kali sniper. But as you can see from the lineup being brought from Ninjas in Pyjamas, they really don't have much to disrupt that Clash. As you said, the air jabs are the best opportunity to do that. They've all been used. They've been used in a very different application. In this case, you can still blow up the Clash with a grenade. And there's plenty of those on the side of Ninjas in Pyjamas, 2 sets of them, one of which has already been used by Pino. And it'll go off by pallets. Solotov has not been anywhere near as effective as Eminem would like. He's been the early death on his team twice in a row and will again be the first to die. And he does no damage on the way down. Solotov an 0 for 4. That is a tragic result. Nip is in the middle of the bomb site, by the way, but Eminem are swatting them away. And why? Because Nip cannot deal with this Clash at all. So they are blindly firing in towards the back of the map, capitalizing off of the air jabs. Excellent gunplay by Musi. He stopped in his tracks by Nello. Nip in a 2v3. But the thing is that there is a Clash. So while it's a 2v3, one of them is immobile. She'll continue to call. And MNM make quick work of Nip after Nip get into the bomb site. And finally, this British team pick up their very first round.
Yeah, you might be thinking, watching that round from home, like, oh, the Clash didn't do anything, just kind of sitting there in the cocktail bomb chassis. But honestly, the Clash did so much work. It's basically a deployable shield and a bulletproof gadget because the opposing team of NIP, they know they're getting yellow ping. They know exactly where they will be from the side of Eminem, and the Valkyrie C4 from below took out the player deep on side, and there was no way for NIP to deal with the Clash. They dropped the Skylight, they pushed Cigar, but it didn't ultimately matter because Eminem played so well around the Clash and information. They found each and every single kill, just leaving Pino on that cocktail rappel as the last man alive, and Eminem doing a good job of not moving into the crossfires of NIP, finding those isolated 1 versus 1 gunfights, and they get their first round on the board, all thanks to the Clash. But now we're downstairs on the second floor of Reading Dining, and no Clash will be on the board, which means Eminem, they gotta find a way to win without him. They got, or without her rather. They got the Goyo, they got the Valkyrie, they got the verticality. Solotov is the last remaining player in his entire lobby on the side of Eminem that has not been activated. Kamikaze, similar story on NIP. They're both trying to get their first kill in this matchup.
But very different roles they play.
Very different roles.
Kamikaze with the diffuser in hand, playing on Hibana, has 1 plant to his name, and it was a successful plant. Nip have 2 diffusers being planted. 1 was in the hands of Pino. But Kamikaze not getting kills is not as dire as Solotov. Solotov's purpose is to get kills. Kamikaze's isn't necessarily that. So if you've got a roamer who is going to be not your entry on defense, switch to entry when you go to attack, but you are the first in the line of defense of your team, and you are constantly crumbling. They're ripping through you. Nip is ripping through them like a wet paper bag right now. That is essentially a 4v5. The only thing really going for Solotov at the moment is the gadgetry, which thankfully Solotov has been playing operators that have that persistent gadgetry that we've talked about, where when you die, you don't take them with you. Not like an operator like Smoke, where you die, you can't use toxic canisters. No, the laser gates for Rooney stay up and will persist for the remainder of the round. So at least some value being provided there. But the one thing I want to say for everybody watching is that 4 of the players on MNM have never competed in an international tournament of any size, let alone of this size. So imagine coming in, playing up against the defending world champions and having some stumbles. I think it's pretty safe to say that there's a lot of players that would end up like that.
Almost certainly most people would. And actually, Psycho bring out the Kali, and I don't think that's for the gun. I think that was in contingency in case the Clash being brought out again from MNM. You spoke about it, Parker. The Kali sniper, it'll knock back the shield with a regular bullet, really countering the likes of Clash. And actually, in this case as well, it can clear out the mute jammers on the cocktail bar wall. And yeah, one hit, one miss, but they got it eventually. And they can now make their way through the map as they can breach the walls into cocktail, really exposing Eminem's positions. And they're gonna drop the hatch. They say, you know what? We don't want any of this smoke. We're gonna give you guys the high ground, but now, this time around, NIP, they got this sledge on the board. They got one more breaching charge on the side as well. So that means a lot of verticality and damage can be done. And all NIP will have to do is once they drone it out and realize that, oh, Eminem gave it to us for free, move on over, start breaking the floor completely and setting up for that plant. The easiest approach for NIP is to take pillar control and just walk into that reading door and plant in that default position behind the closet, but you got a whole minute first to figure out exactly if that's what they want to do.
The default plant spot being by that door to reading, but that wasn't the plant spot that Nip went with before. On the previous round, they planted by the opening by Laundry. Nice shot by Musi as Uzis gets a little bit too cheeky and cute on white stairs, and he's picked apart with a couple bullets. Neo stands not too far away from the now decaying body of Uzis, waiting patiently. A drone scoots by, his position given away, and he'll fall back. So this will be a hunt for Nip to try and catch him and punish him. All the while, there's only 20 seconds left in the round. This has flown by. The flashes go out, none connecting. Tyrant ascending the stairs. Eminem trying to get back into the bomb site. We'll see how close they can get. Nilo falters. Now Neo joins as well. Psycho with that secondary sidearm on the Kali, doing some significant damage. So it's up to Tyrant and Solotov. Solotov still searching for his first kill. 5 to Tyrant's name. It's all on Solotov. 0-4 in a flawless round is awaiting Eminem, unless Solotov can do something about it. He can't. The diffuser goes down. Ninjas in Pyjamas are in full control, and it's a 4-1 scoreline. They will definitively take the first half.
Flawless round from NIP. And honestly, you might be thinking to yourself, what happened? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, the Kali. The Kali wasn't necessarily picked for the purpose it was used, but the amount of value you got from being able to clear those mute jammers, because Kali is basically like a Thatcher, and typically Thatcher would be banned, but in this case it isn't. But the Thatcher isn't great against the Clash the same way the Kali is, so NIP getting 2 different kinds of values out of one single operator, and the moment they breached the cocktail wall, all of MNM evacuated top floor and just dropped down. They didn't want to contest any gunplay or gunfights at all. And now we're actually seeing a 6-pick from Musi from the Ash onto Sophia, which is funny because in the very first round of this map, it was the opposite way around, where we 6-pick from the Sophia onto the Ash. So Musi figuring out kind of what vibe are we feeling, but I think the Clash makes sense. You get a great gun, and in case the Clash does get 6-pick from MNM, you know, those concussion stuns, they work the same way as Kali, where if you hit the Clash or in proximity of her, she will kind of open up her arms and sway back her shield, exposing her body, and that'll allow the teammates of Musi to take her down.
There's a sidearm too that just wreaks havoc. A lot of people sleep on that just secondary machine pistol that both Clash and Kali have access to. There's some criticism about Kali and how the bolt-action sniper rifle is not an ideal primary to use, but I mean, you've got a second pseudo-primary in your back pocket. It reminds me a lot of when the SMG-12 was, in many cases, a better secondary than most primary guns, and you could see both Dokkaebi and Vigil using it extensively. That said, not dwelling too much on round number 5, the very final defense for MNM, final attack for Nip. These teams will swap sides afterwards. This is a strong map for MNM, but you wouldn't know it based on the scoreline at the top. Is this just a very attacker-sided Kafe? Numbers right now heading into this matchup don't suggest that's the case. This is a relatively even map. So Nip are taking full advantage of a lack of coordination from MNM. This is the problem that occurs when you get a new team that is somewhat inexperienced. You can have some beginner's luck, but there are teams that are here. They've been here much longer. They know how to deal with newer teams. MNM certainly have their hands full.
And I also don't think NIP is underestimating Eminem at all. They were kind of spoken very highly of by both casters, analysts, and of course within the European League, whereas often we see teams from like APAC. People don't know much about them and people underestimate them. But what do you know? Underestimate a team and they come and bite you back. I don't think that's the case here. NIP clearly showing a ton of respect to the side of Eminem. And once again, this basement attack, NIP playing it very slow, feeling out their opponent, kind of waiting for Eminem to make the first move and get the opening pick. Psycho just holding down this angle, and I think NIP can be happy with that because even if they were to lose the round, they still get a 4-2 side swap. Normally, uses that's the second run out that doesn't award you a kill, but a bit of damage at the very least. Normally on Kafe, with Thatcher being open, it's quite attacker favored. But the thing is, yes, Thatcher's open. NIP hasn't played it yet. They haven't used it to its full capacity at all. But they're still winning rounds. It's unheard of, Parker.
Nip has been allowed to set up on the second floor too, and you can hear the sledge just smashing away. Uses drop from a grenade from above. That's the first pick of the round. 1 minute to go, and it's a good time for Nip and their fans to start to put some points on the board. And by points, I mean kills. Still opening up some of that floor. It's going to make the defenders down below very uncomfortable, and it's going to take away the safe spots that you can play on. The primary focus for Nip, I have to imagine, is going to be a freezer drop. So get control, try to force Nello out of this position as best as you can. They're doing a fantastic job of it at the moment. Nello's been dropped. They'll need to figure out if he can be finished off. But there's a flank occurring now from Eminem. Tyrant creeping up the stairs. Oh, his controller's unplugged. Musi dropping him. Nello finished off by the grenade toss down. First kill for Solitov, but he's going to have some more to do. More resting on his shoulders. Neo still has a yokai drone potentially in play as well. Flash is going out, but Solitov is immune to the first, the second not so much. Kamikaze not far away. Solitov drops Musi, trading out, but it's a kill fest from Julio to grab the last two in the first round, or the first set of rounds in the first half. Goes to Ninjas in Pyjamas, 5-1.
Wow, that is also a good round for NIP. They had 5-1 side split out of those 6 rounds, that 5 of the opening kills, or sorry, 4 of the opening kills to 2 of the side of Eminem. Uses tried running out twice, didn't work out a single one. Early aggression from Eminem hasn't worked out at all. I mean, I wrote down my notes. Aggro, confident, flexible team from Eminem, and to be honest, they have shown one of those 3 things. They have shown flexibility. They've played so many different operators and multiple people. They have not quite shown confidence just yet, and they have not really shown aggression, at least that worked. Of course, now they got on the attacking side. Neo showing the IQ early on to start off the round, and NIP did a good job. They showed the Valkyrie, meaning Neo stuck his guts on the IQ, but they said, you know what, we're gonna 6 off it, and we're gonna think you're gonna stick it, and now you're gonna get way less value out of your IQ scanner because we don't have the Valkyrie on the board. Mossy is on the board instead. Castle being brought up by Musi again. We've seen this a couple of times. You're going to be barricading off those piano windows. You can barricade off that double door to cigar if that's what you want to do and basically extend out early aggression. That's something that Eminem themselves did in that very first round with Nello playing inside of cigar with the smoke. But he also fell quite early on, and that made NIP's life a lot easier. And if you guys recall, NIP did win the first 3 rounds of their attack. I will see if Eminem can do the same because they have a big task in front of them. Honestly, a lot of people relying on them as well. Casters, analysts, fans at home. But at the same time, we can also say Eminem came from CL. They're now in EUL. They just qualified a few months ago, or dare I say almost basically a few weeks ago. Then they played the open qualifier of Invitationals. They won that qualifier, and now they're here. If you're Eminem, even if you were to lose every single match, which they haven't done because they beat Sandbox Gaming in their first game yesterday, 7-5 Oregon, 7-4 Kafe, you can be happy with your performance. But of course, if you're Eminem, you want to show more.
Excuse me, Psycho, but that's not very nice. Tyrant just wanted a nice look in to see what was going on in the cigar lounge, but you decide to end his round
very
40
rude.
seconds in. How could you do that?
That's just not gonna bode well for Eminem, is it, Parker? Because now that's Tyrant off the board. It's your top gunner, it's Ionic Grenades gone, and the Gone 6 as well. So 3 explosives, and those are gonna be quite useful this round, and you're not gonna have that spare. Of course, the Finger and the Sledge will bring their own, but the more the merrier.
IQ being brought as well to deal with the Valkyrie was something that had been talked about, but guess what? Joke's on you. Nip's not bringing it. Pino with the DMR takes out Uzis. Eminem have not even made it in the building, really, and yet they are being picked apart by this Ninjas in Pyjamas squad. Not an ideal start on this half. If Nip go up to 6-1, the climb back for Eminem looks particularly treacherous. And They'll have to find a pick or two early to try to keep this one even. And there you go. Solotov is seemingly online. This is the first Turkish player to play at a T1 level internationally. It's 0 kills going into the previous round, now 3 to his name. On Finca, it's like taking candy from a baby. You should be getting a kill every single round with that LMG, Gone 6, grenades, and adrenal surges. There's Kamikaze, preying upon the weak, preying upon the innocent. Solotov frags back. He's the only chance for his team this round, but Musi says that's quite enough from you. I don't want to see any more. That leaves Nello in a 1v3. 1 minute to go. Trapped inside a cigar, the walls closing in on him. He knows exactly what needs to be done here. The most experienced member of MNM won a Pro League championship with Na'Vi all the way back in Tokonami, back in Season 11. Still twisting and toiling, Nitro Cell going off. They know exactly where he is because he's been firing away from that same position. But guess what? Nip don't need to waste any of that time, Nick. 40 seconds to go. You can just stand pat, play patiently, let Nello come to you. He's an incredibly talented player. And the Nello clutch on Coastline, when he was playing on Gridlock, tends to be one of the most, I think, famous moments from him as a player. But he's going to be able to pull it off again. Survey says, not yet, maybe. 1 HP in a dream. Castle barricade next to him, clock working against you, making noise, but Psycho puts him out of his misery. Have to wonder if that was a deliberate stall to allow the team to talk a little bit, as MNM had used their tactical timeout early on, and this has been a very quick affair. Nip now up on match point, 6-1.
I love watching Bob behind NIP. He's so emotionally invested in his team, and I mean, when you have a name like Bob, it's just, I feel like it adds to the charisma of the character as well. Because for me, at least as a Danish person, we have Bob the Builder, right? I guess that's not Danish, but Bob the Builder is like close to my heart. He's a nice, funny guy. Bob himself behind NIP, very nice guy, very kind, very funny as well, very charismatic. That's the word, charismatic as well. NIP doing a really good job on their first defensive round to basically capitalize on the, I guess, the lack of coverage made by Eminem. Sure, it's kind of hard to cover a lot of angles when you're down 2 players because NIP found 2 early picks on their side, but it's kind of what we didn't see from Eminem. Eminem would just be falling backwards, constantly giving ground to NIP. The moment NIP thought Eminem got too much ground, they would push back into them. We saw Kamikaze peek the breach. When that happened, I believe it was Musi who also swung around. They traded 1 for 1 and they got good value. And really, Eminem struggling to get a foot on the floor. They barely made it to the building before 2 players lost their head. And, well, it's going to be a reading bomb site defense, but a similar fashion. We're going to be extending up above, bringing the castle once more. And this time, Eminem, try and keep all your bodies alive. You want to make sure that you have as many guns as possible because you need them right now. NIP, they're really shooting back.
Especially with that very first pick that we saw from Psycho up above. Cutting one of the players from Eminem off a wire. I believe it was Tyrant that was the first one to die.
Yeah.
Hard to tell because pretty much all of Eminem died in the same window of time with the exception of Nello and Solotov. So it could be any of one of the 3. Usus, Neo, Tyrant, who knows? They all died very quickly and did not allow for much of a fight for their team. A very disappointing first map for Eminem thus far. They still have time to turn it around, but the darkness grows, and Nip are chomping at the bit, licking their lips, seeing that Clubhouse map they are 5-0 on over the last 2.5 months is potentially up for their taking.
Yeah, you can be quite confident if you're NIP, right? Because you're not supposed to win this map statistically. You haven't really won it in the last 3 months. You lost it twice already here at Invitationals, once to Empire, once to Sandbox. Both were 4-7 losses, but now, I mean, you've already got 2 more rounds, but not only that, but your opponent only has 1. 6-1 scoreline, match point, 1 minute 45 left, and this time around, Eminem, all players are alive, but they got much more ground to cover before they can get anywhere near to a victory.
The one thing I will say that bodes well for Eminem was that you had some individual performers who were struggling in the kill department. They have seemingly picked it up. So when you get to Clubhouse, maybe they will be a bit more proficient. In the meantime, the whole team is ultimately failing to do what needs to be done. Failing to hold map control, now failing to take map control. 90 seconds off of this pretty fateful round, and it's Ninjas in Pyjamas again to start things off. The UMP in the hands of Pino finds Solotov. That's the Finca down. No adrenal surges, no Gone 6, no nades either. Not running the LMG at the spear in hand. So the rest of Eminem have to ensure that they're not making some big mistakes. Psycho jumps out. Is he going to be able to win this? No, he sees the elbow of Tyrant, but as Tyrant re-enters the building, just in the middle of the site now, for the record, down and reading, it's Nip in a 4v2.
That is quite nice and Tyrant saying, you know what, this round might be over, but I'm going to get some kills on my way back. Gets another one as well. Now side control is kind of hell, but Nelo is so far away, no diffuser in hand, pushing up that wide hallway. Could come down the wide stairs and help his teammate, or drop that launcher ahead of Tyrant. Has to do so much work, but a triple kill for him so far. Kamikaze off the board.
What did I say, Nick? Some of these players have come online, and if they can start hitting their shots, even if the slope is a little bit too steep for them here on Kafe, then it could work out really well on Clubhouse.
Timing.
Julio creeping up. Just missing out on Tyrant. Tyrant sees it. Lots of damage being done with the ARX in hand. He's been hitting his shots. Where is Nello? In the corner, planting. Both Julio and Pino are so low. Tyrant needs to watch these two players swinging, but he gets picked off by Pino. And Nello's the last one up. He takes out Julio. Cleaning house. Diffuser down. He's at full HP. A single bullet to Pino is all it will take. Pino has no intel as to where to go. Just over 30 seconds for him to win this matchup and win this map for his team. Push us to Clubhouse. But he's got time to do that. He has no idea. Suspects that there might be one inside of Laundry. It's to the left, by the default plant spot. Assessing where that diffuser is. Fires away, but he's got his back exposed. Nello, you're looking the wrong way, and there's a freebie for Nello, as it was just poor intel, and you've got too many angles to cover. Whether it was the team directing him to Laundry or not, it is his undoing. And MNM still in this matchup.
I really got scared for a moment when Nelo flicked to the left towards the pillar area. It's like, oh no, what if the timing happens that Pino 180s and sees him and takes him out? That would have been terrible for MNM, but what was great for them, they had a 2 versus 5 essentially clutch. Opened up from Tyrant, getting that triple kill, and now I go back to my notes. Aggro, confidence, flexibility, and now I've seen them all because that previous round showed all of those things. Aggressiveness, confidence in the aggressiveness, but it took them to be in a terrible position of a 2 versus 5. Before that really came from them, they could stop having this playstyle with the 5v5, with the 3v3, whichever man count they have. You don't have to only play that way when your back's against the wall and there's no other way to win, because clearly MNM, they have the players, they have the aim, and to be honest, Tyrant completely out-dueled every member of NIP except for Julio, I believe, who ended up taking him down. But Eminem, you gotta show it more, you gotta show it now, you gotta show it earlier if possible. Sure, it's the first map, but if not now, then you have only one more shot to do it on Clubhouse, a map that statistically NIP are the kings on.
Down to kitchen they go. This rotation looking eerily similar from Ninjas in Pyjamas as to what we saw from MNM. Marshmallows and Molotovs. How funny that you have Solotov on Marshmallows and Molotovs. I wonder if that was deliberate or just really convenient. Cocktail reading and kitchen, cocktail reading and kitchen. Those were the 6 bomb sites for MNM. Cocktail reading and kitchen for NIP is what you see right now. And could potentially repeat. MNM need to win out from here to overtime in order to secure a win. And then, of course, once they get to overtime, they need to win 2 of those 3 rounds. That is a very heady task. It is doable, and we've seen teams close gaps like this before. As unlikely as it may be, the previous round from MNM, even though it came down to a 1v1, was at least a better showing than we've seen from them thus far. Users walks in, takes out Pino. That's the first pick for MNM. They're going to need a couple more to feel confident about their ability to take this bomb site.
That is exactly what I was expecting out of Eminem off the bat. Aggression, confidence, storming into Bakery and taking control in the first 45 seconds. But now, they got a bigger task in front of them. Sure, it's Pino off the board, it's the Kai gone this wall itself, which means they don't have to worry about breaching it. Julio getting active, getting aggressive. Juices get taken down by Psycho, but NIP once more, they're pushing back into Bakery.
Psycho holding this angle on the window. Nice shot onto Neo, and now MNM are the ones who are behind. Psycho turns around. He's got the Warden of Musi with him, but Tyrant has other ideas. He was critical in the previous round, and he's now equalized it. He's hit us to a 2v2. Nello and Tyrant, again. Nello by the main door. He's going to hold on to that diffuser. He's got half of the round to play with. This has been characterized by a brief bit of action, then a pause, then action again. The last 2 remaining players from NIP are Psycho and Musi. These have both been players who have historically dominated games, and right now Psycho is on a fantastic 13-5. They'll run up against the red-hot hand of Tyrant. Drone work being done. Plenty of time still for MNM to work with, but they're going to need to get some of that gadgetry in action. Not just good enough for a drone, but apparently you'll see a Gemini come up as well. Psycho wants to take the engagement to Nello, very narrowly does that. Tyrant and Nello spread far apart. It'll be a bakery take to a certain extent. Tyrant looking for a flank. Will somebody from Nip move out of the bomb site? The answer is no. It's Tyrant to get caught, and Psycho is looking for the ace to close it out. He's going to need to do just that. An ace to win. What an impressive feat, and 15 kills for Psycho would be a victory for Nip. Nello again in this clutch position. He sees the head of the Mozzie, but he cannot connect. He'll go for the plant instead. With 30 seconds left, he can fake this. It'll be a retake from Psycho. He's not going to contest. It'll allow Nello to get the diffuser down. So Psycho will creep up through the same doorway that he had just seen a teammate fall from not too long ago. Looking in the bomb site, there was limited intel in the post plant. He thinks he's over by Bakery, but he's over by Prep, but now the position's been given away. So he'll move forward, and Nello again, 2 rounds in a row. He will clutch out. Phenomenal stuff from MNM, and they stay alive again. The comeback in its infancy, but it's growing, baby.
Honestly, in that position, I think there's no better player from MNM to have that 1 versus 1 because experience speaks volumes. I was afraid that another player from MNM might have played that a little bit differently, and I think Nello played it perfectly. He leveraged the time, he leveraged the ground, he knew his opponent was low on health of Psycho, and of course, I think they both knew a 4K had gone out, which means Nello wasn't gonna let that ace go through, but Tyrant was the player once again that we speak of. He opened up the round, got the 2K really quickly, and then Nello and Tyrant is the duo amongst gods. They're doing it back to back, and they're finding rounds for their team. 6-3 now, still in favor of NIP, of course. Nick got many more rounds to go. They're going back up top, and we're actually having the exact same bomb set situation as before. Top, reading, basement, or first floor of kitchen, and then back upstairs we go. No team has played mining just yet. They're confident in their top 4 holding skills. We got the castle on the board as well. It's gonna be a similar fashion to the first time around where NIP, they conquered. And then on the reading bomb side, that's where MNM, they conquered. Now, MNM, they are starting to show their aggressive side, and it's working so much better for them. But remember, it can be quite difficult to muster up the confidence to do those things against the literal current reigning world champions of NIP. And one of the most ridiculous things that happened last round, well, MNM, they took Baker in 45 seconds. Good job by them. But then NIP, they sent 4 players back to retake Bakery, something we almost never see, and Psycho found 4 kills of his own. Then Eminem said, well, we'll take it back right then. The 2v2 happened now. We saw what happened, and now Nello opened up those cancel barricades using that Hibana gadget to great effect. You can only use 2 pellets. All you need is 1 to hit the barricade, and then it's gone.
We have an update, by the way, on the other matchup, as Psycho wanted an early pick yet again. Let's talk about what's happening on the other stream on twitch.tv/Rainbow6. Deafen yourself for the next 10 seconds. Starting now. The Sonics have defeated Sandbox Gaming 7-0 on map number 1. Phenomenal stuff from them, and there ends the spoiler. Back to the match.
Wow. That's all I can say. Wow. Good stuff. Opening kill. Good stuff as well. Solotov now really shining through. That's Kamikaze off the board. Jaeger in the grave. But again, the Jaeger gadget, it has passive value. You put it down, it continues throughout the round. But Solotov wants more. Julio off the board. Same fashion though. Passive gadget, they'll still get that jammer value.
I guess it really just is a very attacker-sided Kafe. A 5-1 split is what's needed from MNM to propel them to overtime. They've got 2 of those 5 rounds thus far. Nip moved to map point back in the very first round. This is a good lead that they have established. You talked about passive gadgetry. Both Julio and Kamikaze have those passive gadgets. If there was a Nitro Cell in hand for Julio, then that might be something that is denied for the rest of the team. A nice shot from Pino. He'll hold down the fort over on that new Balk and go immediately on to a cam. Solotov likes that one and pays his commendations with a nice shot in chat.
Oh, nice shot indeed. So this is kind of where NIP, they started playing slowly in that 5 versus 3. MNM, they kept up the aggression, but I mean, it's working in their favor right now. Juice has found Psycho, so top gunner off the board. But now, NIP, they're gonna get really aggressive.
Muzi sneaking up, trying to take advantage of a blind spot. If MNM aren't aware of this, it could be their undoing. They have somebody dedicated on flank watch. There's a flank drone that just got swatted away by Muzi, but he's got a lot of angles to look at. Pino's still far back inside a cocktail. This beachhead from Nip is but a single player. Muzi thinks there might be one on white stairs, but he's fighting shadows. Nobody in that particular area. Nobody in the postal code. All the flashes raining down through the skylight. One hits on the Pino. Muzi is as good as dead, and Pino will need to clutch in a 1v4. He gets swung in on by Uzis, but it's Tyrant credited with the kill. And as to why Nip has seen success over the last year, but the absence of him, either as a calming presence behind the team or as that commanding voice during a timeout, I think objectively weakens Nip, even as good as Bob may be to rally the troops. Nip are prone to tilting. They have tilted over the last 2 days. You have seen it if you follow them on Twitter or on social media. The team has griped about how they don't like the build of the game. They've had issues with recoil in previous seasons. So whether you think that's Nip making excuses or not, it is abundantly clear that frustration sets in on this team. Be it frustration with themselves and them projecting, or frustration with their results. Nip are now in a position where they have been knocked onto their back foot. And this timeout, if you're a Nip player, you hope that these 30 seconds that you just spent talking to the rest of your team is going to settle you down, because MNM are closing that gap in a hurry.
So a strategical thing that changed this round. Both the freezer walls are now reinforced, and they got caught in the board from Psycho. And then one very important thing to remember, Uses, he actually 6-picked the buck from the Thatcher. Meanwhile, Psycho 6-picked onto the Kaid. So NIP have a very strong strategical advantage, because there's no easy way for Eminem to break the Kite Claw and get through these walls. The Kite Claw is likely below. That's typically where Latam likes to put them. But even then, the Thatcher not being in play, Eminem has to find some kills and find openings. They cannot strategically pull apart this round as easily as before.
Nip was so good at setting the tempo on attack. On defense, it's much harder to do. We talked about this in a matchup yesterday that we saw in regards to Team Liquid trying to control that pacing and playing a little passive to Space Station. In this case, Nip are also at their best when they are the ones who get to bully their opponents around. But Eminem's entry points to this map have been superb through the last 3 rounds. Getting opening picks, or if not getting the opening pick, immediately responding and then picking off the isolated players from Nip. You might surrender the first player, but then you get the next 2. That's a win. You move forward. You have the objective play in mind. You have your goals in mind. You have to execute on that. Still searching for the very first pick now, as we are almost halfway through round number 11. Ninjas in Pyjamas will go to Cocktail for the 3rd time, 2nd in a row. They prevailed on this bomb site all the way back in the very first defense and are looking to replicate that to send us to Clubhouse with their team up 1-0. And they've got a good start. They just gunned down Solotov. The entry player, who is usually so formidable, is sitting at a less than impressive 6-11. Most of that ground has been made up by Tyrant. We currently watch down below inside of Mining. Looking for a pick, see if somebody's off site. There's a default cam up, but he wanders right by it. Julio's on the hunt, and he's got the call, and there it is. But no! Julio misses his shots. Tyrant's been downed, but Nip will be able to secure. Pino with the super short, he does it. Muzi was there for an insurance policy if needed.
I'm pretty sure Tyrant was down below expecting that's where the Kite Claw was, but Tyrant also had the only grenade from the side of his team. And as I said, this will be a strategical round, and NIP, they know this. They're playing so much further back this round. This is very unlike the previous aggression that we saw, but it speaks to the volume of the strategy. They know NIP or Eminem cannot get through this wall. They don't have to do anything but to sit and watch and wait.
Uzis is expecting a jump out from the Jaeger of Muzi, but the thing is that because of the way he's played, his attention is elsewhere. Nello goes down, that's Diffuser surrendered as well. The job for Eminem has now become even harder than it was before. So dire that that might have been the round. 1 player falling, and that could be the ball game. A nice shot from Uzis, damage done, but no, Nip's guns hit their marks at the last second. Uzis doesn't know where to look, and that is the first map stolen away from Eminem, going to the Brazilian squad and defending world champions of Ninjas in Pyjamas.
Now it's back against the wall, Parker. If you're Eminem, you really gotta step up the game and not just step it up, but you're going to the cave.